All right, my friends, welcome back to Salt City Counseling. Once again, my name's Scott Carter. I'm a licensed therapist here in the state of Utah. In this video, I'm going to talk about what I would basically refer to as truth bombs about life, dropping the life truths that need to be heard, need to be said, need to be talked about. I feel like this is a conversation that is important for people to have and understand, extremely important. And so, what are we talking about here? We're talking about finding happiness, where you find happiness, why it's so elusive, and why what you're doing isn't working. Because really, society has really we've kind of lost our minds, and I'm not entirely convinced that we actually ever had them. But to the degree that we used to have our minds, I think we've lost them. And what I kind of mean by this is, I mean, my philosophy is this about life, that if a person is happy, that if we're finding joy and we have reduced our pain, then we found it. That's the formula. That if you can say successfully, you have joy and you have reduced your pain, primarily, right? You find fulfillment, you find a quality to life, then you're doing something right. If you're horribly miserable, if you're miserable and lost and feeling unsure and angry towards people and hateful towards people, then the formula that you have isn't working. So here's the first truth bomb that I wish somebody had told me when I was young. This is what I wish had been really, really ingrained into me as a child. And so that I didn't have to unlearn all the other stuff, all the other nonsense that just led me down miserable pathways. And it's just this. You will not find the answers to the personal dilemma, and I'll get into what I mean by that. You will not find the answers to the personal dilemma by seeking external things. You won't get it by moving to a certain place, or acquiring a certain job, or a certain amount of money or income, or finding that perfect relationship, that right relationship. Those things will not solve what I'm calling the personal dilemma. And if you seek for those things to solve your personal dilemma, again, I'll get more into that in a moment. But if you seek for those things to solve your personal dilemma, it's not going to happen. You can go decades and just do the same thing over and over and over again and just feel like you've never gotten anywhere at all. Okay, let's talk about the personal dilemma. What do I mean by this? Okay, really, it's kind of finding yourself. It's having an identity. It's forming an identity. It's solving the personal dilemma of understanding yourself and finding your path, finding a sense of purpose, finding a sense of fulfillment, and finding a connection, basically, to your way of life, to your daily living, to the things that you do, and just figuring yourself out. Carl Jung, the famous psychologist from the early days, he talked about the first part of our life is about forming a healthy ego, and then the second part of your life should be about learning to let that ego go. And I have found that to be true. I can honestly say that I have really put in a lot of work and a lot of effort to develop a healthy ego. And so, unfortunately, what we see these days is that there's not a whole lot of healthy ego. There's not. With other people around, there's not a lot of healthy ego. And if you do what other people are doing, you're going to get what other people are getting. And I realize there are a lot of people out there that operate under the illusion that other people have found some sort of happiness. And at least around here, there's not a ton. I do know some people. I know people that are on the path. I know people who are seeking it. I know people who are getting glimpses of it. Frankly, as a practitioner, this is what I do. My work involves helping people really solve that personal dilemma, and develop that healthy ego, without trying to expect or put the pressure on external things like a job or a relationship or whatever, or where they live, to solve the personal dilemma. You have to do that first, okay? And I will provide you with some ways to work on and looking at that personal dilemma. I realize nowadays that people are really struggling. People really need help, and help is not that accessible. And a lot of people are finding that they go to therapy, and it's not that helpful. they don't really get the help that they're looking for. Frankly, most therapists, they're just as lost as the rest of you. Frankly, some therapists are therapists because they only believe that they are valuable when they're helping others. So they don't have much ego strength either. They haven't solved their personal dilemma either. And for me as a practitioner too, I'm honestly losing. How do I say this? I'm kind of losing my faith in the mental health industry in general. Very very rapidly, I'm losing it. And I mean, standard therapy, let's be honest, is not about helping you solve your personal dilemma. It's about diagnosing you, labeling you with a disorder, giving you pills, keeping you sick. It's focused on sickness. It's a sickness-based model, not a wellness-based model. I'm a wellness person. I focus on wellness. I lead and guide people to wellness. And so on that note too, I'm opening myself up to coaching too. So I've had people contact me over the years. I want you to be my therapist, and I'm restricted to my state, but I can do coaching, and I'm opening myself up now to doing coaching. So go to my new website, saltcitycounseling.com, and you can reach out to me, contact me, email me. I'll put that information in the description below if that's something that you're interested in. And with that, right, it's about solving that personal dilemma. If you have that personal dilemma, let's work on solving that personal dilemma. Because if you approach your relationships, for example, like you're going to solve my personal dilemma, so that's what people are doing. And then they wonder, right, like why are our relationships a disaster? They call it love. It's not love. Love is not that you have no light. You have no ability to create your own light. So therefore you try to take it from your partner. You expect your partner to give you light. And then you end up just sort of being codependent. That's really, really kind of the definition of codependency is you basically have two people that are unable to generate their own internal light. So they try to take it from each other or try to derive it from each other somehow. So that's a little bit about the personal dilemma. You're not going to solve it by finding the right job, living in the right place, finding the right relationship. By the way, too, it is entirely possible, I feel like, that the right relationship could help in several regards. However, most people I find that have not solved their personal dilemma are exorbitantly skilled at driving good people away from them. They will repel them. They push them away. They reject them. They run from them. They'll start to feel vulnerable and they'll freak out and they'll put a torpedo in the good ship relationship. Even if that right person comes along, the right person is going to leave pretty quickly probably, because if you haven't solved your personal dilemma, it's going to be difficult for that person to find you attractive or want to be in a relationship with you. And that's just kind of the truth. People who have solved their personal dilemma or are actively working on that are way more attractive. Way, way, way more attractive. Okay, so anyways, that's a little bit more detail on the personal dilemma, and that you're not going to solve it through those external means. And with all of this in mind too, that's not to say that external things can't improve the quality of your life. But they absolutely will not improve the quality of your life if you have not solved your personal dilemma and you haven't learned to create some of your own light. Okay? And so solve your personal dilemma first, and then things can start to give you a better quality of life. Like for me, it's like probably one of the best purchases I ever made was a hammock. I just have a hammock stand in my backyard. I splurged on it. It's a good quality hammock stand with a good quality hammock. When the weather's nice, it's amazing. That is like my favorite thing. It's really enhanced the quality of my life. I have a fire pit in my backyard, that as well. Things like that can enhance the quality of your life. It's about experiences. It's about things that are going to engage you and help you sort of be in the moment. So how do we solve the personal dilemma? How do we do this? I know a lot of people are like, what are you talking? How do I even do this? It's not taught in schools. You're not generally going to find this in therapy. This, what I call the personal dilemma, that's even my jargon. Like this isn't clinical. This is just my own personal jargon to solve your personal dilemma. And so how do we do this, right? It primarily includes focusing on yourself, okay? And we have this weird relationship with people not wanting to engage in self-care or self-love, of the fear of being selfish. When the truth of the matter is if you don't exercise the proper awareness or proper attention to yourself, you will actually become a lot more selfish. And the reason being is because if you're not deliberately meeting your own needs, like on purpose, deliberately, like putting a focus on meeting your own needs, you're going to become extremely needy. And you won't realize that you're that needy because you're not focused on yourself, because you're afraid of selfishness and narcissism. Narcissism happens because of this extreme selfishness vacuum, that one's needs are so severely unmet that they unknowingly develop these maladaptive patterns in which, like, their subconscious psyche seeks to get those inner needs met, and then they become exorbitantly selfish. That's when you be like, the most selfish people are the people who haven't spent time being selfish in a healthy way. So we have to practice healthy selfishness and healthy solitude. You have to take some of your alone time to do things that are good for you. You have to practice self-love. Self-love is a practice. You have to practice it. It's something that you have to put your effort into. And there are a lot of ways to do that, right? But if you don't deliberately spend time monitoring your own thoughts, monitoring your own emotions, and being honestly self-reflective about your thoughts, your feelings, your actions, your behavior, your choices, and all that, then you will become selfish. You will harm others because you're not meeting your own needs. So therapy, exercise number 1 today for this video is meeting your own needs. What are my needs? Okay, so get out your therapy journal. I have a long history of yelling at people to you have to get one of these and dedicate it to your therapy homework. Okay, at the top of the page, you write, what do I need? What are my needs? And get really honest with yourself, right? Okay, and make a list of needs. Now, I realize that a lot of people are going to think like, well, I need someone to meet this need for me, and I need someone else to meet this need. And what can happen too, right? We're going to get a little deep here. Is like, if you never got those needs met as a child, you can grow up not realizing that you can provide yourself. Like, if you're an adult, you can provide yourself with a lot of the basic needs that you needed from adults or your parents or whomever growing up and didn't get them. So after you make your comprehensive list of like, what do I need? What is it that I need? You gotta kind of put an asterisk next to things that you can actually do for yourself. And as it turns out, a lot of those things you can provide for yourself. Okay. But you may also need to get really honest with yourself and about what it is that you actually need. We often confuse things that we want for things that we need. So go through your list and maybe put a different mark or whatever next to the things that you want but don't necessarily truly need. Like, I need, like, we all need to get around, but you don't need a nice car, right? But really get honest with yourself about your wants versus your needs. Our egos tend to get wrapped up in what we want, things that we want, but we think that we need them when we don't. So get really honest with yourself about what it is that you need and what it is that you can provide for yourself. After that, the next step is obviously taking those steps to provide yourself with those needs. Because if you don't, you're actually going to become this, you're going to be so devoid of any sustenance of like psychological or physical sustenance, you'll start to take from people. And so that is exercise. That's exercise number 1. So through this process, we would want and hope that you will start to generate your own light for yourself, and that it will help you solve your personal dilemma. And so exercise number 2 is going to help you start generating your own light, okay? And it really, this one is kind of wide open, to be honest with you, because different people are at different places in life. But this really is about understanding what it is that you need and providing and lovingly providing yourself with those needs and just being good to yourself. Okay. So this is kind of a self-love exercise. Okay. And just make a short list of things that you can do that will exercise self-love. Okay. And I'm going to give some suggestions. Physically, you got to get enough sleep, and physically, you have to get some exercise. Physically, you also need some sunshine. Go do those things. Fresh air, sunshine, sleep. Drink water, too. I have a friend that's just only drinks Diet Coke. Like, there's water in it. There's not. It's chemical that comes out of a machine. Drink water. Anyways, so you're going to want to really just day in and day out do things that are providing for your needs. Generate your own light. Be good to yourself because it's the right thing to do. Don't do it begrudgingly. Do it because you want to solve your personal dilemma. So set your sights on I want to be comfortable in my own skin. I want to be self-loving. I want to care about myself, and I want it to show. And I want to put this behind me for good. I want to open a new chapter in my life. That type of motivation, okay? So open up that new chapter. But every day you have to do something that helps you provide for your own needs, and in that regard you will help generate your own light. So do something good for yourself physically, okay, and get creative. You need to be creative. I know I talk about this in other videos, but it's really, really important for us to be creative. And this is how you generate your own light, okay? So that is just going to be exercise number 2 for this one. I think that's going to do it for now. Be sure to subscribe and like and all that stuff. I'm going to be doing more videos like this to help you do your own work. Because I realize that therapy is not as accessible as it needs to be, and even not that helpful in the first place. So thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. Happy journeys, friends. Namaste.